Good afternoon. Today I will be evaluating Priceline's user agreement, which is a crucial document for anyone using Priceline's online services. I would like to look at a few key points for this. One is the contract valid. Are visitors bound to it? Should they have to click I agree? If you do have a dispute with Priceline, can you sue them? And what changes I would recommend. First, let's discuss is the contract valid. Before we dive in, we need to understand what a contract is. So according to Ironclad, a contract is an agreement between two individuals or companies that create a legally binding mutual obligations. The valid contract requires the following elements: offer and acceptance. Example, Priceline presents the user agreement as a set of terms and conditions for visitors to its website. By accessing or using the website, users are effectively making an offer to use the platform under the terms. The second is consideration. The consideration is the service that Priceline provides, like booking travel accommodations or flights in exchange for agreeing to its terms. The third is a mutual agreement. When you use Priceline's platform, you basically accept the terms by using the site, making this a mutual agreement. Ironclad also proposes that effective contracts will additionally include legal competent parties. So if any parties in the contract are minors or mentally impaired, the contract would be considered voided, and the user cannot be under the influence of drugs or alcohol. The other is the party that agrees to the contract is through their own free will with no misrepresentation during the contracting process. Prior to the contract, Priceline addresses the additional elements confirming that the party is compliant and agrees on their own free will. Priceline's user agreement does meet the minimum requirements of a contract, therefore it is legally valid. However, the enforceability of the agreement can depend on the jurisdiction and how courts interpret acceptance of these terms. Now we wonder, are the visitors bound to it, or should they have to click agree? So typically there are two main ways companies ensure customers are bound to their terms. First is a click-wrap agreement. These contracts are where a user explicitly clicks on an I agree button before proceeding. This is very common in many online platforms. The other is a browse wrap agreement. These are contracts with implied consent and is not usually legally binding, as users are considered to have accepted the terms and agreements just by using the site. Priceline's user agreement is an example of a browse wrap agreement. The terms are available at the bottom of the website and are accessible via hyperlink. By merely accessing the site, users are considered to have agreed to the terms. However, users being bound by the agreement depends on the user as has actual or constructive knowledge of these terms. Courts have found browse wraps agreements enforceable when they are not communicated or when a user is not made aware of them. So if a user doesn't see these terms, can they sue them? So in the event of a dispute, Priceline's user agreement contains an arbitration clause, which typically requires users to resolve disputes through an arbitration or a small claims court. This is a common practice in many user agreements to avoid costly lawsuits. While arbitration clauses are enforceable in the U.S., the right to sue is very limited because arbitration is mandatory. You must go through the arbitration and not the court, and there is no class actions. You cannot join other users in a collective lawsuit, which may limit your ability to pursue smaller claims. So while you can pursue a dispute, you are most likely not able to sue Priceline in a traditional court of law unless the arbitration clause is found to be unenforceable. So what are some of my recommendations that I would change to Priceline's user agreement? So while the Priceline user agreement is legally sound, there are a few areas for improvement, particularly around fairness, transparency, and accessibility. So first, I would implore them to have a clearer consent. Currently, Priceline uses the browse wrap agreement, meaning users are assumed to have agreed to the terms just by visiting the site. I would recommend implementing a click wrap agreement that requires users to be actively clicking I agree before proceeding with any bookings. This would ensure a clearer, more explicit consent. The second is to clarify the arbitration clause. While the arbitration clauses are common, they are often cause of disagreements or confusion. Priceline should make the arbitration clause more transparent by providing clearer explanations about the consequences of agreeing to arbitration, including the waiver of class actions and the potential cost of arbitration. This might help users make more informed decisions in the future. The third is to update and provide a more user-friendly design. The terms of service are very lengthy and somewhat dense. I would recommend making the agreement more user-friendly, perhaps with a summary of key points at the top and a table of contents so users can quickly understand the most important aspects like refund policies, dispute resolutions, and data use. So in conclusion, Priceline's user agreement is a valid contract in that users are bound to the use of site as long as they are aware of the terms and conditions, though it could benefit from a clearer and more transparent consent. Although you cannot sue Priceline in a court due to the arbitration clause, a user can resolve any disputes with a neutral third party, or the arbitrator can make a binding decision on the parties involved. I would also recommend that some improvements like a clearer consent process and a more user-friendly design, as most users will not have the ability or time to read through each tiny detail, but instead summarize some key points at the beginning like refund policy, dispute resolution, and more. With that said, thank you for your time, and I will provide references in my transcript.